Hello and welcome to another gameplay video. I'm your host JonNario, and today I'll be talking about the Chloromancer Rework. So technically just going to be answering the question that is going to be maybe in the title, which is just going to be if this class is overpowered. I normally was going to do this as a live commentary, but I just decided to do this post commentary because it's a little bit less distracting and I can ramble for a little bit less. So the footage that you're seeing in the background is just me jumping around and maybe just throwing some abilities here and there on the PTS with the Chloromancer. So yeah, for the most part, this is just going to be mostly of a type of commentary that you might just hear instead of just watching the gameplay that you're seeing in the background. So you can just put it down and just do whatever you want and just hear me just talk about the Chloromancer. If you just want to see the footage in the background, then so be it. Now, let's start talking about the Chloromancer. Just to answer the question, is it overpowered? And the answer is just going to be maybe. Why is that? Before I actually just get in the comment section down below and people just going crazy and in the comments and just stopping the video before actually just listening to what I have to say, I'm just going to explain why is it a maybe rather than just a straight on yes or no. Because the reason being is just because of the content that you're doing. So the content that you're doing depends of, you know, whether you're doing dungeon grinding, delve floor clearing, or delve bosses or Leviathan. It all depends on what you're doing to see if the character is overpowered or not. So against delve floors and just dungeon grinding, I do not feel that this character is overpowered. And dungeon grinding is still kind of mediocre because it's setup type characters, and just being a setup type character means that everything just takes a while to set everything up. It lacks instant cast abilities. It is not particularly good character in building momentum. It's not that a good speed momentum type character because everything is a setup. It's the same problem that I have with something like Draco. It's the same problem that I have with something like Pirate Captain. These are setup type characters that usually take a while to do the highest potential damage, and it's not particularly a good thing. Just at that point, just use a character that can move as fast and just use an instant cast ability that can one shot. So even post rework, this character still lacks in terms of dungeon grinding, which is again is a good thing considering the strengths of this character. And then if we move on into delve floor clearing, it's also kind of mediocre. I would probably say it's average as a character. I wouldn't say it's great, I wouldn't say it's bad. Yes, it does have potential of dealing some absurd DPS, but the DPS is single target. It's not group DPS, similar to something like Gunslinger or Ice Age, where they can just kill a multiple enemy because they have really good group DPS with the Ice Age class gem and the AoE from the Gunslinger. Those characters actually do have higher area effect comparable to this character, which this character is all about green gatling. And green gatling is the one that actually does the ridiculous amounts of DPS. Now, if we move on to delve bosses and Leviathan, this is where the character is considered to be overpowered, and I actually had to agree on that one. The character is undoubtedly overpowered. It is very strong, and in my opinion it honestly needs to be toned down at least to be half of the DPS, because even if they tone down the DPS by half, the character is still going to be the strongest character in the entire game, and by quite a bit comparable to all of the other characters in terms of pure DPS. That's how strong currently it is. And then I'm just going to be talking about like the main culprit, which is just going to be the ultimate ability version of Green Gatling. And then just in general, I'm just going to be explaining how does Green Gatling work and why does it do so much DPS. Now, let's start talking about Green Gatling. Green Gatling is going to be the previous class gem ability. If you're using the Chloromancer right now on the live server, you pretty much just throw down plants and you spawn a little cactus 8% of the time, and that cactus just does some ridiculously high burst damage. I've explained this in the Trove endgame series and in the 30k PR series. My recommendation is going in the Trove endgame series so you can actually see how strong it actually is on a 31.1 KPR Chloromancer, and not even the best stats on that 31.1 KPR Chloromancer, and you clearly can see that it destroys even world bosses like no problem. And then if you take into account that that is going to be the old class gem ability and now it's just going to be your regular ability, it is a 2-second cooldown ability and it does more damage. The only thing, it does less cycle, but in Uber 10 you only need 1 cycle to kill enemies. So I'm going to explain what are the cycles. So the cycles are just going to be, once you throw down the plant, you fully grow the plant. Once it's fully grown, it's going to shoot all enemies in front of it. Like, well, not all enemies, just one enemy that it targets. It's just going to shoot 10 shots at that enemy, and then it's just going to reset back. After the reset, after the 1 second reset, or pretty much the little reset that it does, that's 1 cycle of shots. So just stay in there, shoot, reset, that's 1 cycle. So the regular ability has 1 cycle and that's it. So it will stay there, shoot, back, done. On the class gem is 2 cycles, so it will stay there, shoot, back, done. So yeah, it's pretty nice. So it shoots 10 times, each and every single shot does 2 lines of damage. So in other words, even if it only shoots 10 times, it's going to do 20 lines of damage, doing the amount of damage that it does per shot, which in the case of the class gem is 1 times damage, and in the case of the current green gatling that is without the ult, it does 1.6. So in the class gem version, it will do 20 times damage multiplier per burst, and in the case of the green gatling version of the actual ability, it does 32 times damage multiplier in 1 burst, and you can have up to a maximum of 3 plants, and the energy cost is around 50 or so. So yeah, pretty much looking at all of that, yes, it looks like pretty absurd, but it doesn't look overpowered. And then if we move into the ultimate ability, which is there's a new ultimate ability with the Chloromancer called Empowered Growth, and it's going to work similar to Lunacy from the Luna Lancer, which is just pretty much gives you a buff that increases the effectiveness of all abilities, all of the regular abilities that you do have. In the case of the Chloromancer, it increases both the Green Gatling and Leafy Lasher's effectiveness, and Green Gatling just becomes extremely overpowered at that point. So it gets increased damage, increased amount of cycles, you can throw more, like you can throw a maximum of 4 instead of 3, and it does have a higher cooldown, but on top of it all off, it has no energy cost. In the case of the regular Green Gatling, has around a 50 energy cost. This one has none, but the cooldown is 8 seconds. If you do have Chromatic Emblem, it means that you can just use technically this ability every single second for the remaining of the ultimate ability, which is 12 seconds, so it is very easy to set up all 4 plants during the whole duration of the ultimate ability, which is 12 seconds. It is more than Gunslinger, which is 10, and more than Ice Age, that is 5. And then the increased damage is not a small increase, no. Oh boy, if it is a small increase, then I wouldn't have this discussion of today, just talking about the character being so overpowered. No, for some reason they made the damage multiplier from 1.6 to 4.5. That is absolutely ridiculous, considering that it does 2 lines of damage per shot, it does shoot 10 times, so it does 20 lines of damage, and each line doing 4.5. That is, each and every single burst is doing 90 times damage multiplier, which is absolutely ridiculous. 90 times damage multiplier, you can have up to 3 to 4 cycles, because the weird thing regarding the class gem is just going to be on the regular ability, it only has 1 cycle and that's it, because it will stay there, shoot, go back, and it will stay there until it disappears. In the case of the class gem ability, it just keeps shooting until it disappears. It just reset, shoot, reset, shoot, reset, shoot, and if it's still there's enough timer, it will reset and it will shoot again, and it will disappear mid shot. So usually there's going to be 3 to 4 cycles on one ultimate ability version of the Green Gatling. So that is 1 burst of doing 90 times damage from 3 to 4 cycles. So that is absolutely ridiculous. That is, I do believe that is either 270 times damage multiplier from 3 cycles, or 360 with 4 cycles. So 4 cycles is just going to dish out some absurd DPS, and then you can have up to 4 plants at the same time. That is well over 1300 or almost 1400 in terms of DPS. Well, not DPS until full duration of 4 plants. That is how much damage they will do. In terms of DPS, they will do well over 180 times damage in DPS, including all of the reset back and forth. That is absolutely ridiculous, considering that you are doing 1 burst of 360 times damage multiplier with all 4 plants active at the same time. That is absolutely ridiculous. 180 times damage DPS, and it can do even more, because obviously Leafy Lasher, Mini Bloom, and all that stuff. And also you have to keep in mind that the reset is not entirely 1 second, it's less than a second. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's the DPS on the Chloromancer right now, it is more than max attack speed Gunslinger with Arcane Emblem. And this is the Chloromancer with only 4 Green Gatling, without shooting with basic, without doing the Leafy Lashers, without doing anything else. The 4 Green Gatlings are going to dish out more DPS than that, which is absolutely ridiculous. There's a reason why you're seeing that the Chloromancer just killing out so many enemies, like Leviathan, like Overton Leviathan in less than a minute, solo by the way, and you know, all that good stuff. It's just been absolutely ridiculous. The fact that it can do all of that, and then the fact that this is coming from an ultimate ability that is very easy to maintain, it's absolutely ridiculous. So in my opinion, I do believe that it needs to be toned down quite a bit. Because right now, with the current DPS that he's doing right now, Gunslinger is just going to become irrelevant, and that is going to mean that all the characters that got reworked to increase their DPS are now irrelevant. So Draco, Tomb Racer, Ice Age, those characters that actually just got DPS increase just to match the Gunslinger are going to be irrelevant, and they need to get another rework just to match out the DPS on this character. The Ice Age, I do believe, is still the best floor clear, so you might just keep using the Ice Age for those. But for bosses, there's no question which character you want to use for and you want to go for. And then it's going to force you to actually just go with the Chloromancer. And if you don't like the Chloromancer, then if you want to be efficient and you don't like the Chloromancer, then tough luck, because you have to go with the Chloromancer if you want to go with high DPS. So I do believe just making the character just have half of the DPS instead of just doing a 180 times damage multiplier plus doing around 90 or close to 100 times damage in DPS, or probably a slightly little less, is still going to make the character the strongest DPS character in the entire game, but not by a landslide. It's also another thing to keep in note that if they are going to make a new character, they need to make the new character either compete with the Chloromancer or compete with the Gunslinger, which usually they go for either or. And if they competed with the Gunslinger, it's just going to mean that the character is just going to be quote-unquote a disappointment. And then if it just matches, or not even matches, just at least just compete with the DPS on the Chloromancer, it's just going to be straight on overpowered. So yeah, that's the kind of problem in terms of like thing that I have with the Chloromancer. I do believe it's a little bit too strong, and just lowering the DPS quite a bit is just going to make it much better. So that's going to be everything for me. Let me know in the comment section down below, what do you think of this very topic, and do you actually think the Chloromancer is overpowered? I personally think it is, and just explaining you to all of the numbers why it is so overpowered, and in my opinion needs to be toned down quite a bit. I do feel that being the best DPS, single target DPS character in the entire game is a good thing, considering that it still requires a lot of setup. But just being this strong is not a good thing, considering the future of this game. If they want to make any other reworks on any other characters and all of the previous reworks that they've done so far, and also at the same time, if they want to make new characters, they need to, you know, compete with either Gunslinger or the Chloromancer. That's going to be how it is. So let me know once again in the comment section down below, what do you think? Leave a like if you want to help the channel grow, subscribe if you want to see more content like this. That's all for today. Once again, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Take care and keep on hunting. Yeah.